Morning, members. Welcome to our Licensing and Safety Committee this evening. Are there any apologies for absence, please? Councillor Fern.
Yeah, apologies for Councillor Kemp and Councillor Filmer.
Thank you, Councillor Fern. I see Councillor Sands is not here, so we'll register his apologies as well. Can I sign the record of the meeting held on the 23rd of August 2023 as correct? Agreed. Thank you. I have no urgent matters to announce this evening. Are there any declarations of disclosable, pecuniary interest or other significant interest this evening on this agenda? Okay, brilliant. Okay, item 5, handing straight over to Emily. Emily, can you just introduce yourself for some of the members that may not have met you before, but you're going to give us an update on the review of the cumulative impact assessment.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm Emily Lane-Blackwell. I'm the Assistant Licensing Manager for Gravesham and Medway Shared Licensing Service. Mandy sends her apologies. She's poorly, so she's not in attendance this evening. So I am here with regards to the review of the cumulative impact assessment. Medway Council have had a CIA in place since 2018. It was first implemented when you were provided with evidence of the following issues in certain areas of Medway: antisocial behaviour, assaults, criminal damage, public order and sexual offences, arrests, alcohol-related hospital admissions and ambulance call-outs. A cumulative impact assessment was produced based on this evidence. The assessment specified a selection of areas within Medway where, if an application for a premises licence or a club premises certificate was submitted, the applicant had to prove that they wouldn't add to the existing issues within that area. This didn't remove the onus on the responsible authorities to submit evidence-based objections, and if no objections are received, a licence would be granted. However, it could be used as supporting evidence for an objection alongside evidence of current issues. So it couldn't be a standalone, you'd need to bring evidence of the current issues within the area to back up the cumulative impact assessment. The assessment must be reviewed every 3 years as required in legislation, and the current assessment expires on the 30th of April 2024. To review a cumulative impact assessment, we must put out a consultation to all statutory consultees as prescribed in the Licensing Act 2003. They are listed out at point 5.1 of the report. This consultation will ask all parties to provide evidence that would support either removing the CIA, keeping the restrictions within the CIA as they are, or amending the restrictions. Today I am here asking this committee if they're happy with the proposed methodology for consultation. We'll be emailing and mailing out shots and advertising on the website for a 4-week consultation period beginning no later than the 8th of January 2024. This will then provide me with just under a month in which to review the evidence provided and amend the assessment as needed prior to bringing it back to yourselves for consideration. So, I ask, are you happy for me to proceed with the consultation as outlined in this report? Thank you.
Any questions, members? Councillor Brown, did you have a quick question?
I just had a quick question. To avoid any clash with the celebrations over Christmas, can we make sure that the period of time when starting no later than the 8th of January doesn't include the holiday period, please?
Yes, Councillor, that's absolutely fine. I can do that.
Councillor Scott?
That was what I was going to say, but I also wanted to say how interesting it was to read the paperwork and how thorough it is, so a novice like me can understand it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Emily, could you just maybe just pick up on the point just really quickly? I know there's been some questions why some areas are not included in this. and whether we're moving towards that evidence in future, maybe.
Okay, so as I said within my introduction, the assessment can only be based on the evidence that is provided to us. In the past, it has mostly been from the Community Safety Unit and from the police and from public health. If the evidence that they provide doesn't include an area such as Twiddle, for instance, then it can't be included within the assessment because there is no evidence to base a cumulative impact to say that there are problems in that area, so it wouldn't need to be added. With this review of new evidence coming in, as I say, it could indicate that there's less problems in a particular area, so we could tweak the assessment there, or there are more problems in an area that there weren't. It might be that a stress area has now become a cumulative impact area. So that's why we need the up-to-date evidence, so we can then bring that to you with our suggestions and we can finalise the assessment.
Thanks, Emily. Councillor Filmer?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Firstly, apologise for being late. I'm a trustee of an old people's home and it was their Christmas dinner today and it didn't start till late and I couldn't get up and leave, but I haven't had anything to drink. I think this is very good, having read through it, regarding the stress areas and keeping an open mind on areas that will come into that. It's the way we've got to go forward and look at the areas that are causing the problem, because it's a big thing, all this antisocial behaviour and everything, so it's only right we keep on top of that.
Thanks, Councillor Filmer. Councillor Hamilton?
It's just a point of clarification. So in terms of the method of consultation, you mentioned mail shots, and I just wanted clarity whether the mail shots will be targeting businesses and residents in the various areas.
So the mail shots, so in 5.1, if I can just scroll to that. So we will be emailing the responsible authorities, so the Kent Police, Fire Brigade, Public Health. The letters and emails will be going out to all licensed premises licence holders or club premises certificate holders and those other associations that we've mentioned in that list. With regards to the public, obviously I don't have contact for every individual, so that's why we advertise on the website. So that will be on Medway's website. And that's the only means that we currently have to do the consultation for the general public to know the information.
Come back, Councillor Hamilton.
So given that in some of the areas that have been identified, there are quite significant amounts of residential properties, is it viable, using the information that's held at the council, for a direct mail to go to each of those properties?
Emily?
I don't know is the honest answer, because as I say, I don't hold that information and I don't know whether I'd be allowed to be given that information. So it would be a matter of finding out whether there's any department that has that information that would be willing to send that out on our behalf.
Just before I go over to Councillor Peake, I suppose there is an opportunity there, because in 5.1.7 it does say residents, but it says, including Medway councillors. Maybe it's a way of involving your councillors in those wards. Councillor Peake.
Yeah, thanks. I was just curious to know, you mentioned some areas haven't got any information already available and therefore you cannot revisit them, and you mentioned Twiddle. With these areas, is it a case of assumption that there is no need, or is it just in the past we've been reactive to when need has emerged and therefore, oh yeah, there's issues in antisocial behaviour, blah, 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 that type of thing, please?
As I say, it's evident, it's the evidence that we are provided with. So we, as licensing, don't go out and check the information. It's what the police or community safety or public health provide us with. So they The police and the CSU and public health have all been pre-notified. We're at this stage, we're going to start putting out the consultation. So hopefully they will have already started gathering their evidence for the whole borough of Medway to then be able to provide us with that.
Sorry, maybe I shouldn't be asking you this because you did say that at the beginning. So obviously not responsibility. I was wondering if you was aware of their criteria, which it's fair enough you say you don't know. Yeah, I was just curious to know how they decide which areas they want to do analysis of. Okay.
No, that unfortunately I wouldn't know how they gather their information.
Councillor Printer.
Thank you. Just two things. Where you said you would use the council's website, is that going to include all of the social media threads that are available to try and capture as many people to see it as possible? The other one was, again, about the residents, as Councillor Hamilton has just mentioned. Is it, I know, I mean, you can't go out to everybody in Medway because obviously that would be very expensive, but is there any sort of distance between how far you would go with because someone who lives next door to a pub obviously should be consulted, but is it 100 metres from distance from licensed premises? Thank you.
I'm trying to think. There is no designated distance that we would contact. When I wrote this, we were covering the residents by either advertising on the website. I love the idea of speaking to the press team and seeing if they can get something out on the Facebook page. I believe other consultations go out the same way. Don't see why I shouldn't. But then obviously we email all of yourselves, all the councillors and the parish councils, and hopefully we're thinking that they will get the information out to the residents. It's never been something that we've thought of to try and individually contact any residents within any particular distance of a licensable premises or licensed premises. Yeah.
Just to make it more of a whole approach, I mean, you could have people living above a pub who aren't actually connected to the pub, who are really impacted by what happens, or across the road from an off-licence. People around are impacted and probably should really take part in the consultation. Thanks all.
Thanks, Councillor Printer. I think just a bit of a word of caution. I think remember this is imposing an impact. You call it SIP and CIA, whatever we're going to call it. This is imposing a process around certain areas. And last time this went out, Councillor Furr, remember, it can cause concern in areas. So if you're not, the messaging is really important, Emily, because the messaging around people living in an unsafe area or in an area of concern, because if you read these reports, for example, Gillingham South sounds like a terrible place. And it caused many problems last time because it sort of, people were worried about their house prices, about everything else at that time. So that messaging, which all the councillors are saying, is really important, I feel. And it might be a good thing with a comms team, but how we message it shouldn't be, you know, we're gonna install this process in your areas because it's terrible. Because, you know, that's how the report reads. I think we need to be careful on how we do that. But and that's what happened last time, Councillor Printer. You know, because remember, it's about them saying we're going to do this again. We're sure they've already been under this process, and we're going to renew it. But we should hear views from everybody, really, to make sure. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Members to note the consultation process and instruct officers to proceed with the same and to use as far as possible all the strands of media, but to be cautious about the right messaging that goes out. Thank you.
Is that seconded? Seconded, Councillor Fern. And agreed? Agreed. That's the end of tonight's meeting. Good evening. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.